Yeah, I don't think you were as prepared for this interview as you should have been.
Katie Hopkins, you're very personable in person.
And I see fat bastards draining our National Health Service.
I don't apologise for any of it, so you know what, deal with it.
So it's been a long journey for 10 years or so of being arrested, completely annihilated, thrown out of my country, but I am officially back.
A couple of potatoes short of the full sack.
You've been described as reality TV's Hitler. Are you the most controversial person in Britain?
The BBC currently is non-viable as a business. Sky News just folded. There's no pleasure in watching all of my old bosses fail.
When you say there's no pleasure, how much do you mean that?
Piers Morgan, the biggest regret he has...
See you later. I'm being... Sorry.
Katie Hopkins arrested for suggesting grooming gangs are majority Pakistani Muslim men. Elon kind of came along and blew the roof off. I'm now allowed to breathe again.
Do you get...
That's a really vacuous question.
Do you get...
It's a really lame question.
Because
we've got people ramming Christmas markets and you're talking about words on a tweet.
We can do both. You say things like, I just want this person to be all right. I just want
I do.
A few months ago, some woman on the TV, her husband died. She made... And that's what you did. You laughed and laughed and laughed. And that was mental, Katie. I don't think you're self-aware. I think you're very aware of everyone else and not necessarily self-aware.
That's so cute. Stop hearing about dead Derek.
Or maybe
dead Derek.
She needed...
I've been pushed to the point and beyond where you swing from a tree. And then I remove myself from their lives completely. The powerful people that control this globe, even when they see you climb the tree to swing from it, they'll go for one last thing to check that you swing.
The last 2 months, you guys have really listened when I've asked you to subscribe. Thank you so much. Now, the next step is to ask you on YouTube to hit the reminder notification on my homepage. Without that, you'll miss out on my videos, and we wouldn't want that. Make sure as well that notifications are set as on YouTube or it won't work. If you're watching on Spotify, please hit follow. Katie Hopkins, you're very personable in person.
People say that sometimes. They say, oh, but you're nice.
Do you feel, because I actually do feel this myself, do you feel that you have to or you want to be extra nice in person because you know people will have an impression of you?
There was a time when that was true. So going about the place, people would come and say hi, or you're just going to check into a hotel, or you're going to get hair and makeup done, or you're whatever. You'd be super extra nice because if your reputation is that you're a monster, you every day need to prove that you're not. But I think, you know, for me, that was kind of 5 years ago. Now, I really love the people who make the stuff work. So like the lady behind the desk downstairs, the gentleman who clearly has a problem with alcohol, who's running the security gate. I can pick up things about them immediately, and I love them, you know. And I guess that's it, is that the more that I am around people, the more that I find that it's the ordinary bit players of life where the interest is, and the people that are shiny and fabulous aren't really that fascinating at all.
Is that your experience of celebrity people you've been around?
Well, I think it's more that I'm just now in this really lucky place. So like you just see here, there's a lady who's helping today here in reception. So we get chatting. She said, I'm not here. I'm like, yeah, I'm not here either. Let's both not be here. So we're having funsies. Then a guy comes down who's shooting on another floor and wants to tell me about his project because he knows I'll be interested. And he wants to introduce his actors to me. You know, what a lucky thing.
Yeah.
What a lucky thing that you can be a face that people go, oh, she'll be interested, or she'll think this is fun, or she won't judge, or she'll give me a hand. And I've become that face, and that's a really lucky face to have now. And I never thought I'd say that about my face.
It's a lucky face. It's a lovely face.
I wouldn't have ever said I had a lucky face.
The face is fine. Nothing wrong with that face. But you have also, on the other side, you've been described as reality TV's Hitler.
Yeah.
And would you say, are you the most controversial person in Britain?
No,
who is
not
then?
At all. Oh, I have no idea, and I wouldn't be at all interested to find out. I think it's a sort of idleness. Labels are typically an idle thing, but calling someone controversial is particularly idle because it just allows you to say, well, what they're saying is mad, so I can ignore them. So it's very handy for someone on BBC to say, introducing the controversial Katie Hopkins, because already then they've distanced themselves. Already they've let the audience know you can disregard this bint because she's a nut job. And already they've cleansed themselves. And I find that very, very lazy. And I would routinely call interviewers out on that by saying, that's just idleness. You invited me on here because you want the views. Here I am. Do you want me here or not? The other thing
I would say, when it comes from me, I know that I'm a very controversial figure in that sense as well.
You've been given the same label.
Yeah.
But I also think one of the beauties now of having been around for so long, 20 years in the public eye, 25 nearly, is I've stayed really consistent. So I have held a very authentic line that is my true path. And people have realised that, well, hold on, if she was just being controversial, let's say tomorrow I was a new face and I said, I'm getting the NHS to pay for my new tits. One of the things they say on Good Morning TV for a bit of rage. That lasts 5 seconds. People are outraged. Why would the NHS buy that woman new boobs? And then they go away. I haven't gone away. And that's been a really fun thing for me. And I take no pleasure today in watching MailOnline, Daily Mail shedding all of my ex-colleagues, The Sun shedding staff, fast. The BBC currently is non-viable as a business. It can't operate because it doesn't have funding. Yep. Sky News just folded. There's no pleasure in watching all of my old bosses fail. But it is interesting that I'm still going.
When you say there's no pleasure, how much do you mean that?
There's no pleasure because actually, I like the idea that there's lots of different news organisations. I like that Mail was out there doing their thing, The Sun. I met some, I worked for some good people during my time there, and their choice wasn't really to get rid of me. They just had no choice. So, but I think things are changing so fast now. And this new nimble, agile podcast, new media stuff. I know, look at you in your swanky studio.
Swanky studio.
You're so posh and fancy.
It's lovely, isn't it?
It's very nice.
And but with this sort of...
You're like a grown-up. There's a plant.
There's a plant.
There's this softer lighting.
I've come to realise after some time that the plant is real, and so we have to water it. I thought it was fake. But, that's the thing. Well, the reason I ask is because I do take... I wouldn't say I take no pleasure in some of those channels not doing well. And I don't have the personal relationships you do with those people, so I understand what you're saying. I take a tiny bit of pleasure in going, so this kind of ideological drive you went on, this cowardly, contemptible drive you guys went on isn't actually very good for views, and people don't trust you guys.
Yeah, and I would say that exactly that. I'm not really taking pleasure in them failing, but I do take a great deal of pleasure in our side winning. And by that I just mean ordinary people using their own eyeballs to decide what they want to see, what they don't want to see, what they're interested in and what they're not. And I guess that would be applicable today with your podcast or anyone's, is, I very much say to viewers, if you don't want to listen or see, or it's just too awful for you to imagine me or any other guest, you see that little thing in your hand, there's a button on there, and it's a stop button. People own choice. We need to go back to owning all the things, owning risk. If I'm going to do this, it's on me. If I screw up, it's on me. We need to go back to owning risk, and we need to go back to owning choice. And that's what this really ultimate struggle is about, is the government trying to say, we'll do all of that for you, just come and live under us. Or us saying, no, we're individuals, sod off. And obviously I'm massively in the we're individuals, sod off. Yeah.
One of the things that you've been... maybe reassessed for in recent years, and I think you're alluding to that. I know Tommy Robinson has been a little bit reassessed in recent years, is the issue with Islam in this country. That 10, 15 years, it's weird actually, 15 years ago, Stacey Dooley was able to make a BBC documentary that everybody's forgotten about, where she went around her town going, look at all the Muslims, I can't believe it's a Muslim. And the Muslims going, you're dressed not well, you look like a slut, you called me that. That was going on. And now the BBC, not in a million. Then there was like a 10-year period of no. But back in that Stacey Dooley period, there was like Obama was saying, we're going to deport people. And Clinton's was saying, we're going to deport everyone. Then there was this sort of 10-year period of like, anyone who mentions immigration or those things is now a bigot. But is it sort of changing the last year or so?
Yeah, and that's a really strange thing to see is, so Elon kind of came along and blew the roof off. So he kind of got a hand grenade and threw it into the pot, and it just detonated and just took the lid off everything and made it so that you could say this, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden, very typically, everybody and their son was out there saying, well, I was the one that was calling this out. I was the one. And you're like, were you? I didn't see you. And I'm producing headlines from 2014 where, the Guardian, Katie Hopkins arrested for suggesting grooming gangs are majority Pakistani Muslim men. Simon Danstuck, cuck, whatever, reporting me to Manchester police, me being arrested for saying it's majority Pakistani Muslim men who are part of these grooming gangs, me being arrested for even tweeting that 10 years ago. And now look at it. You cannot get enough boys coming out saying, I was the one calling this out. And so that's a glorious thing because people are speaking out. There's
Vindicated.
a decade, well, it doesn't really matter for me, but a decade later, suddenly people are speaking. And personally, of course, for me, Elon Musk, did me a tremendous favour. So Rachel Riley, the Muslim Council of Britain, and the Centre for Countering Digital Hate Online, those three organisations walked into Twitter HQ, as it was, and had my account removed. And Elon Musk reinstated me and Tommy on the same day, Guy Fawkes Day. And that was, that was quite a moment for me because that was blowing the lid off my world and saying that I'm now allowed to breathe again. And so it's proven to be true.
Gosh. What does it feel like when you're getting investigated by police? And were you arrested? It's
been arrested multiple times. I was arrested.
Hands in cuffs kind of thing.
They don't go for that. But there's things you learn about police and police approaching on your home or your life or your well-being or your family's well-being. The first time was a column in The Sun, which would be easy to find, but 2014, and it was Stop the Boats 10 years ago. I mean, who would have thought that 10 years later we'd still be saying the same thing? Stop the boats. And I said I'd use gunships to stop the boats. And what I meant by that was I would send the military to the channel. I would form a military barricade, if you will. And it was show me pictures of bodies floating in the water, show me children drowning, show me this. I have no sympathy. I would send the boats. And I would still believe that to this day. My first thing I would do is send the military to the channel. So
bit of sympathy for children drowning.
Well, more anger at the child traffickers, the human traffickers that decide to put children into boats. I mean, it's disgusting. The onus doesn't really sit on me. It sits on the person that put them in a boat, and it sits on the charities that funded them to put them in the boat, and it sits on heads of religious organisations that also traffic human flesh, but best not go there. But my point rather being, I wrote a column in The Sun that said stop the boats. I'd use gunships to stop the boats. That was my first big foray into the world of being arrested. So Major Crime and Homicide Command, the Metropolitan Police, arrested, interviewed under caution, my case sent to the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, to see if they could prosecute me. The head of the UN Human Rights Organization saying that I was responsible for racism in Western Europe. I mean, it was very serious. And this kind of has gone away because it was 2014 and I was just me, a kind of columnist who was on The Apprentice, suddenly in a police station with two officers answering for a column that I wrote. And it was one of those, I mean, many of your viewers won't even know, but at the time when you had to press play and record at the same time on a tape recorder, this is probably not something you relate to either. There used to be a thing called cassette recorders, and to get it to record, you had to do play and record at the same time. That was in the police station to record my interview for a column in The Sun. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. And then who do you arrest as well? Because then you have to arrest the editors.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing. No, the culpability sits with the columnist, even though you've gone through all of the layers of legal and editors.
Obviously, Katie was previously banned on X, but do people think speech should ever be banned? My wonderful sponsor, Ground News, I love these guys, I use them for all my news. They piece together articles from publications across the political spectrum, so you get access to every angle. Take a look at this article about the government implementing free speech laws at universities. Ground News shows 25 articles about this from a variety of publications. Lefty publication Pink News focus on hate speech concerns, whereas GB News, on the other side, write of cancel culture. I love this bias distribution tool, which shows this has been covered predominantly by the right, with only 21% of lefty publications covering it. And their factuality tool gives you an idea of how trustworthy each source is. Ground News is my only way to get unbiased news. Subscribe through ground.news/Andrew for 30% off unlimited access this month.
So it's been a long journey for 10 years or so of being arrested, interviewed under caution, completely annihilated, thrown out of my country, but I am officially back.
How did it feel at your lowest? Do you get sad?
That's a really vacuous question.
Do you get upset?
That's also a vacuous question. It's just repeating the last one.
Well, there's a synonym, isn't it?
It's just a really, really
the reason
useless
people want
question.
to know is because John Ronson, for example, I think he wrote an article, I haven't seen it recently actually, suggesting you might be on the psychopathy spectrum. I ask people this a lot. It's not a dig on you. I ask people all the time if they're psychopaths. I ask Tommy Robinson.
No, I'm not concerned about who you ask what to. I'm saying asking me, do I get sad, is a really lame question.
I think people want to know how emotional and what it really feels like when someone tries to arrest you.
I don't think it's a question of being sad, but there is a great deal of sadness, of course. Being thrown out of your country is very sad. Watching ordinary British people be targeted and attacked and feel like they don't belong in their own country is incredibly sad. Feeling like a second-class citizen in your own home is incredibly sad. Working hard to give away 75% of your income is incredibly sad. You know, I think my position in all of this is not that relevant. It's the people that this is being done to that it's incredibly sad for. And whether I'm a psychopath or not, one of the things John Ronson found very hard was that, of course, we ended up really rather liking each other, hanging out for coffee. I don't want to disclose John's private life, but his children and my children, there are some similarities. And I'm an empathetic person. I'm not a monster.
Sorry, that happens
That's
sometimes.
Okay. Don't worry. No
we'll just have
worries.
it-
I'll
we'll just have it
start.
straight.
I'll go back up about 10, 20 seconds. Is that
Okay.
good?
Do you remember where you were?
No, I'm a retard. I was born yesterday. I've never done an interview in my life. It's really, really hard to do this. So John Ronson, one of the things that was really frustrating for him is he couldn't find a route in to telling that I was actually not always a monster, or maybe I was a monster, but there was a different side. And at the time, my lovely husband, lovely Mark, worked at the donkey sanctuary, right? And he's a creative, so he does the branding for the donkeys. And John said, and this is surprising for John, he said, well, maybe, Katie, I've been thinking, we could go to the donkeys and do a picture of lovely Mark at the donkey sanctuary. And I knew what he was doing. He was trying via lovely Mark and the donkey, which of course everybody would have loved. And lovely Mark is lovely and fluffy and, has a skeleton ring and has pierced earrings. And John was trying to indicate there was a different side to me. And I was like, John, if the Guardian readership needs to see a picture of a fluffy fucking donkey and my husband to like me, they can fuck off. And that's my sort of favourite memory of my time with John, is that is the truth of me now. And this is I don't really care about the me bit or what people think of me, because I know me. I'm well past what people think. It's not that flippant, oh, I don't give a shit what people think. It's not that at all. It's not that. It's I am so determined about where I'm going and where we need to get to. And I have real clarity about what I'm going to do, that other people's views are much less relevant, other than the very ordinary person making stuff happen at the reception desk. So it's that.
I think, is that why you didn't like my question? Because it reminds you of John, or it's people trying to get an emotional side from you? No,
not. You don't remind me of John Ronson at all. He's hugely intelligent. But
yeah.
And it's that, it's just, I think it's very lame. Does it make you sad? Because of course I have endured. Of course. I mean, it doesn't even scratch the surface. That's why it frustrates me that you ask it. It just is so vacuous. I've been pushed to the point and beyond where you swing from a tree. It is absolutely, I have without doubt, that you will be pushed till you swing from a tree. And even when you go and get the rope and you go and get the ladder, they'll do something else to you. The powerful people that control this globe, even when they see you climb the tree to swing from it, they'll go for one last thing to check that you swing. So for you to ask, does it make you sad? You have no understanding at all of how serious it gets. I have walked out of my house with a destination in mind to jump, because the only way I could protect my children from what was coming for me was to kill myself. The only way I could stop my children being reported to social services, investigated to ask if I was abusing them, investigated individually to ask if their sister was telling the same story as they were. My children threatened to be taken into care separately because they have different surnames. The only way I could stop that was to end myself. So perhaps you understand why you saying, does it make you a bit sad, is very, very lame.
It undermines or...
No, it's just a lame question.
Well, I think it's led to quite an interesting answer.
Agreed.
So I'm pleased I asked it.
That's just you trying to make yourself feel better, and that's okay. Let's move along.
What did Donald Trump say about you?
So back in the day, when I was a columnist at MailOnline, we had this kind of... I don't know how to put it quite, but an understanding. So his press team and his supporters back in 2016 found me and the MailOnline very, very useful. Not in a contrived way. He could see what I was doing. He liked the way I came across. He saw me on Tucker Carlson twice a week. He liked what I was writing. And it just so happened that he and his team found it useful that there was this consistency because I was saying the stuff he was saying. He could kind of use me to go, well done, this look at this smart British woman saying this stuff. And that's exactly what he did. He would retweet my stuff. He would say, thank you to respected UK columnist Katie Hopkins for her excellent views on this. And of course, at the time, I was this monster, this outrageous, controversial, deeply evil Katie Hopkins, who was also the most read, most listened to. But for him to be the one saying, respected columnist, I have it on a T-shirt because it was the opposite of what the idea of me was. I was supposed to be this villain. But it was just one of those moments in time that was so lucky that the president of one country found what I was writing to be good, and he loved the way I delivered it on Fox News. And that was probably peak, in terms of that me, that was peak me. I had my own LBC radio show that was the most listened to show on a Sunday. I had my MailOnline column next to Piers Morgan, and I was more read than he was, which would annoy him. I was on Tucker twice a week. I was on Sean Hannity, and I was on Australian news once a week. So that was the moment of me being the most known. I would get texts from Boris Johnson, Rachel Johnson. That was a time, I didn't realise it then, that I had a lot of volume. And that's when I had Trump as well tweeting me. That was before the guillotine came down.
Why did the guillotine come down? Because when you've got Trump's backing and all of that, how can that happen?
But that was kind of precisely why. Is the moment the Trump tweets started, I would say that's when the guillotine started to creak above my head. So that was bank accounts that went shortly after Twitter went, when Rachel Riley and the Muslim Council campaigned for that. Then it was my jobs. So I'd been warned that The Guardian had a meeting with Catherine Viner that I was the target, more or less, that week. So then my LBC radio show went, one tweet, and bomb, that was gone. There was a petition from the Board of Deputies and all the associated signatures, which they all have on file already. It's not like they have to find these letters. There was a petition to get guests to say they wouldn't appear on LBC until I've been fired. And LBC relies on its political guests. Of course it does. And so I was fired from that job. MailOnline, I was fired as a columnist. I was utterly removed from everything. There was a legal case where I'd made a tweet that was misinformed. I was wrong. I deleted it, apologised for it, retracted it, but that went all the way to the High Court. So I lost my house. Then the kids, so social services being called on my children to have my children taken away. And then a couple of jihadis were practicing to take my head. They practiced with a hunting knife and a shop dummy. And they were caught just at the moment of coming to my home. So my home was rigged up.
Christ.
And then they went to prison. And Keir Starmer just released one of them on early release, as she hasn't served her time. in order, I guess, so that he can lock someone else up who's white for a Facebook post. But that she's now back on the streets. And then the government sponsored a play, which we can find, anyone can find if they type in The Assassination of Katie Hopkins. And those billboards went up around the country, and it was seen as a jolly good jape. The Guardian covered it. So I guess just in terms of the level, if you're just an individual, I'm just an ordinary woman, it was complete and utter, and nothing was safe. And so my husband moved the children out to a separate place. All of the children, we changed all of their names. They don't have the same names anymore and are not each other. And then I removed myself from their lives completely, and I set off really on the road to America. And I never have been near any of their lives publicly in any way. So never to a school parents' evening, never to a nativity, never to a come and watch your child do this, never to any of them, so that I could give them a chance of being separated from the darkness that came from me. And I can say, I fully accept if someone's listening to this saying, she's a nutter, she's off her rocket. I totally respect that, But I can say firsthand, whatever that thing is out there, the heads of religious organisations, charities, governments, it exists. And when they work together to remove a person, you are gone. Yeah.
That must have been frightening, to say the least. I'm worried of using words that aren't strong enough.
I know you are.
That must have been
Don't let me intimidate you. That's not fair at all. But it's. I
don't want you to walk off if I use the wrong word.
I would never walk off. I always turn up where I say I'm going to turn up. I always turn up early, 5 minutes before the 5 minutes before. I'm military, and I would never walk off. That would show weakness, surely.
It would probably get a lot of views, actually. Do you see that Peter Hitchens one? He walked off.
Oh no, I don't agree with walking off. I think if someone walks off, actually, they would always regret it. That's my sense. I think people are regretful after they've walked off.
I think Peter probably is, because he was on a podcast. Alex O'Connor, and I don't even know why it wasn't. It was one of those things where you don't know why he's gotten so upset. It wasn't
right. And I believe, and the boys you have to settle yourself. If you said you're going to do something, whatever that is in life, you do it. And I know that if you walk off, you will have let yourself down and you won't like it. And all that you've done is you didn't really control yourself, because you should be able to argue your case, or you can cut it and say, well, that was really lame. But you can keep going. You can just cut someone and say, no, that question was lame. On we move.
Yeah.
Like, can you not move forward? And I know at a personal level, Piers Morgan, the biggest regret he has, and bear in mind, this is a guy who has forged pictures on the front of the Daily Mirror and had to resign. He's hacked a dead girl's phone, allegedly. Bear in mind all of the lies Piers Morgan has told in his life, and now finds himself a YouTuber that no one wants to watch and Americans don't like because he's anti-guns. His biggest regret, I know, is walking off the set of ITV, his breakfast show, because he loved that show. And he still is not, he'll never get over losing that show. So
he does get, I should say, he does get a lot of views on YouTube, I think. I think he gets a lot.
I think he's just been humiliated royally by Tucker Carlson. It was very delicious to watch his lack of knowledge about Yugoslavia. But regardless, your question that you asked was, whether at some point it is sort of terrifying. I think I'm so lucky to have gone through it and be past it. Now we're another 5 years past that, and all of the things that have happened to me subsequently have really taught me, that it was worth it. But it was a lot. And when I see it coming for someone else now, Andrew Tate or whomever, Tommy, I know what the playbook. They know that I've been there.
But there have to be some people who are bad people, right? Some people are psychopathic and some people are malevolent. And Andrew Tate might be. I don't know what's true about the allegations. It's a lot of allegations. You're right that when people come for someone, maybe they're invented to an extent. But I have heard some of the things he says, and they're not very nice.
Right. Is Andrew Tate nice? Is that the question? Are we allowed in society to, as a group, decide, hey, this person
really is poisonous, and they're not trying to be helpful in any way, and they just want to get money off of everyone, and they do things like convert to Islam because they know there's a lot of incels in the Islamic culture who will give him money and views and things. Are we allowed to say, we don't like this guy, I'm going to criticise this, otherwise it will incentivise others?
Oh my good Lord. So where you got to there, are we allowed to say we don't like this guy, can we criticise him? I mean, that's an obvious answer, isn't it? Of course, of course.
Well, I'm criticising Andrew Tate.
Yeah, I think you're slightly muddling where you went there, because we were talking about the utter evisceration of a person, and then you've just modified that to, aren't we allowed to criticise someone? Of course you can criticise. I should be criticised. If I'm not criticised, what the hell am I doing? Plenty of people criticise me on a daily basis, and absolutely they should. Plenty of people think the opposite of what I think, and that is charming as well.
But you're talking about things you've said, which we could say, okay, bad, good, whatever. With Andrew Tate, we're talking about the transportation of children.
I'm not here to talk about Andrew Tate
Allegedly.
nor defend him. I'm merely saying that I have seen firsthand how the very powerful will crush an individual who is trying to speak truth.
Yeah.
And that, for me, happened personally and specifically at a certain moment in time, stood on the shores of southern Italy, watching the Save the Children boat operate as a ferry, paid for by NGOs, directed by governments, funded by heads of churches and religious organisations. That's the article in the Daily Mail that ultimately led to my demise. And it wasn't an ordinary person criticising that got me fired. The head of the Charities Commission, head of the boards of deputies, 35 signatories from the boards of deputies. You know, these are big organisations involved. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But absolutely, should society decide who they want to listen to and don't? Yes. And is that why we're going to see the end of the BBC? Yes. People are choosing to watch you instead of the BBC, I assume. CNN is finished in America because people are choosing Trump's way. Absolutely, people should have choice. But I think one of the things, I guess, for me is, you know, less so now because people are used to the idea that I'm actually just a normal mum, woman, person thing, feisty, is people used to meet me and go, but you're nice. And it would be hard for them to understand because they'd been sold this monster really hard. You know, you're supposed to be 6'5" and hairy and you're just this little thing. And they're like, but you're nice. And that's the lie. You know, I've been very useful at highlighting the way the media will lie if they want someone to not believe you. What better way than to call them a name or call them controversial or make them a monster or show pictures of you where you're always, always ugly, like the ugliest you could look.
Well, that's horrible.
Well, it's just that's the system for women. Just find the worst picture of her because then people will know she's a monster and they can disregard what she's saying, even though 10 years later, a lot of what I was saying is now what lots of people are saying.
I think, you know, gosh, it's hard speaking to you because you are very intelligent and quick, and it's I've got to be alert. I've sort of woken
You
up.
needed to be better, is what I'm saying.
I brushed my teeth.
Yeah, I don't think you were as prepared for this interview as you should have been. I don't think you've researched things enough. And I think the problem with the podcast in this format that you have it is you've booked a series of guests in order that you get content. And I totally understand and respect that and the need to get stuff done. But what it means is you're not dedicating sufficient emotional investment or intelligent investment in the interview. And so that's why I have a limited amount of patience for that. And that doesn't sit with, just one moment, that doesn't sit with me. That sits with you. And if you take time with this later, because obviously you can edit this bit out, you'll see what I mean.
We don't edit it.
Oh, it's fine. But you'll see what I mean. You'll know what I'm saying is true.
Where have I not shown not to have been
it's just the sense of being... I want you to be better because I want your podcast to be better. I know you could do... I know you could do a better job of this, though. General question like, are you sad?
That's really stayed with you, hasn't it?
No, I just think it's... I think it's a sign of churn on a podcast, and I think you can do better.
I think I tend to ask questions like that because I find personally that we focus too much on, or a lot in the media on the political state of affairs. Okay, what you said, what wasn't said. And I've always learned as a journalist, and I've always felt watching things, that I want to know if this person felt emotional in a moment. And there was no way for me to know whether you would have said, sad, come on, I'm a strong person, what do you mean? Or, of course I was sad. I thought of taking my own life. And because of the way I asked my question, I think it did actually lead to you telling me something fascinating.
Yes, and we have two views on things. I'm just kind of pointing out something that I think is quite obvious, that I think investing in a person, I think podcasts have to go beyond filling time.
But Katie, it wouldn't be obvious to most people that you were made to feel sad by these things. And that might feel strange to you because it's so obvious to you. But I'm telling you that the vast majority of people, particularly listening, would have heard me say, oh, did it make you sad? And gone, I have no idea what Katie's going to say here. This is interesting.
And that's fair. But we moved on then to you saying, I'm making you feel slightly anxious because I'm making you feel like you're not sure what you can ask me.
It's because you're disagreeable, and I don't mean that in a negative sense.
Yeah, I'm very
high in disagreeability, and that's something that in the long form podcast, as opposed to a Piers Morgan quick shouting match, I'm not that used to, and I'm excited. I like it. Come on, let's bring it on.
Exactly. But also, I'm making you anxious about what you're going to ask because I'll call you out if I think something's been lame. That would only be my opinion.
Yeah.
And you're anxious as well because you would wish that you'd done slightly more preparation because you'd feel less anxious. And all those things are perfectly fine because my intention is to try and help you and to have an interesting conversation. I'm not here to belittle you. I didn't travel 8 hours to come to you to do this, to belittle anybody.
I refute the allegation of a lack of preparation.
Okay, fine.
I prepared quite thoroughly.
Okay, carry along.
These are questions of sensibilities.
But then don't allow yourself to feel anxious at me, I guess is what I'm saying. You're saying it's making you feel anxious. Don't be anxious. Because before we started, you said, I've got some spicy questions for you. Not that word, you said something else. I don't want to paraphrase.
I said I'm going to ask you about the people who were using the C word.
Oh, no, you just said I'm going to ask you some tricky questions. And I said, ask whatever you want. Right? We said that?
Did we not think say so. That? I don't remember exactly, but it might have been. Yeah, I don't remember.
Before we started recording, you said, I've got something questions for you, tough, spicy, and I said, you can ask whatever you want.
I might have said tough. But you've got to remember, my personality is quite glib. I am not in an insincere way, I hope, or not too insincere.
No, you don't seem insincere.
No, but I do like to ask these questions. I mean, it's quite an English humour almost. It's a Theruvian or a Carl Pilkington-esque, if you know who he is. I don't have the kind of ego that I need to show that I'm more intelligent than my interviewee.
No, this isn't about you. This is just asking you not to be anxious when you're asking questions. You can ask anything you want.
I appreciate that, Katie. Ian Hislop, what did he say about you? He said, you said, it's because of people like you that there are people like me. And I think you're right. What do you mean by that?
So it was an interview he asked to do because he was doing something on, immigration or migrants or whatever. And of course, I get booked to be on the whatever they're trying to capture, to go and do a staged, it's not going to be live, which is never my thing because they can manipulate it any which way they want. But obviously I'm being wheeled in to be the monster. Oh, let's get Katie on because she's the monster that hates all immigrants ever. So you arrive there and you know what's coming. They just want their soundbite of you being a monster. And you don't want to give them just that soundbite of you being a monster because that's not the truth of the thing. The truth of the thing is the story I've always been trying to tell, which is ordinary British people shouldn't be made to feel like second-class citizens in their own home. And just because we're importing millions of people doesn't make it the right thing to do. There's a sincerity to the fight that I've been fighting for a decade or more. So there's this real intellectual jousting going on because you've got him plus his crew plus his production plus the guy whispering in his ear, and then you've just got me who's being specifically put on the altar to be sacrificed as the monster. So you're going in and you've only got a bit of time. So that's why it was really important for me to lay those words out as I did, and it was relating to the words feral. And I had said, some individuals are feral human beings. And that's what he wanted to challenge me about. Are they really? Are people animals? Are they really? What, just you're making them sound like they're filth? Well, no. I've lived in the migrant camp in Calais. I have slept amongst them. I have slept with the mother who dresses her daughter in the migrant camp as a boy, because if she dresses her as a girl, which she is, She fears that the men will take the child and the child will be lost into the camp and will never be seen again. I've spent time with feral humans. I'm specific about using that term because I've seen it firsthand. And so I wanted to be clear that I used that term in a certain way. And I also wanted to be clear with him that I know who I am, and I've never been a monster. But in order for the legacy media to isolate and alienate a truth teller, they make you a monster so that no one will listen, so that everyone will join in the public square when you're in the stocks, and they will all join and just throw stuff because everyone else is throwing stuff. And that's exactly what happened to me for 5 years in my country. And I wanted to say to him clearly, no, there are such things as feral humans. And, if I am a monster, it's you that made me the monster. And that was a really important moment for me because it was a way of, even though I was hated by nearly everybody in the country, obviously not, maybe not my own children, but I was hated almost universally. I still knew I had to stay true to knowing that I wasn't what they were saying I was. I just want what's best for ordinary people like I am. And so that was a real moment. And now it's a funny thing because that was 5, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, something. And there's a different me sat there. I have this short lesbian hair going on. I'd had surgery, whatever. Bright white hair. And I look different. And my life is so different now to then. Then I was still in my power mode. But that woman is the same woman now. And now I just get to be, cuddled at the Premier Inn this morning where I woke up, cuddled by the receptionist, asked to come and shake hands with the boys who were off to see Norwich today, stopped in the car park for a picky. I am so lucky to have walked through that fire and made it, and that now I get to be just who I am. It's really, really lovely.
It doesn't paint a full portrait because there are people who still maybe dislike you, as there are many who dislike me as well.
Oh my gosh, there'll be people that hate me.
Yeah.
People that watch this that all say, I cannot stand her.
Well, we had Julia Hartley-Brewer on yesterday, and she said something to that effect about you.
Oh, bless her.
And she's already somebody who's controversial in her own right. And so I guess that gives the impression that you're so extreme because she's already considered quite extreme herself.
I don't know. I think it's, again, it's one of the unfortunate things that podcasters do, which is to ask individuals about someone else because it gives a soundbite. Julia Hartley-Brewer says she can't stand Katie Hopkins. I get asked about Tommy or Andrew or the boys all the time, and I refrain from comment other than I support everyone who's trying to get an opinion out there and will stand their ground. I see what happens with people who are a little bit known, maybe like Julia or others, and there's a peculiar sense of fiefdom. They have this sort of fiefdom idea of needing to protect their space on the battlefield, if you will. And it's a sort of a circular thing, I imagine, in my world of pictures in my head. And in order to protect their bit of clicks and views and space and bookings, they have to make sure not only do they say enough things that are sufficiently quite strong, but they mustn't be too strong, and they certainly don't want to pick up any of the angst that might go along with Katie or Tommy or any of the... So there's this very clever playing of an Overton window that they're in, and they're also trying to look after their clicks and views. And so that's why they feel the need to criticise.
Can I strongman their point of view, though? And just to give a devil's advocate there, is that a lot of us on maybe the centre-right, or the anti-woke, let's say, find ourselves trying to convince that woke ideological authoritarian lunatics, those people, that while we disagree with them, we're not actually racist. We're not actually at the point of this kind of Goebbels.
Right. Whereas I don't bother with that anymore. There's no point engaging with that. There's no point trying to convince people that will never be convinced of things.
But they would say it's important not to say, for example, feral, although I do see your point about the camps, but they would say it's important not to go, because it is that kind of propaganda that we've seen in history when people compare minorities to animals and things like that. Or when you said final solution, right, that we need a final solution for Islam, which you say you didn't mean in that final solution sense, people find that hard to believe because you're incredibly bright and aware of what final solution
Which depends
means.
who owns words, doesn't it? I mean, if one religion owns a set of words, then if we subscribe to that would be a curious thing. I was meaning we need a lasting solution to Islamic terror. I think that's a fairly reasonable point to have made at this juncture in time. Feral humans, I absolutely stand by. But I think the reason that certain individuals feel the need to criticise others is because of the fiefdom, is because of the wanting to keep their own views, their own clicks, their own bookings. You know, Julia would very much like to be on Question Time. Julia would very much like to be on Newsnight. And if she overlaps or interfaces with me, that is very unlikely to happen. Because I'm from a military background, I can understand that criticising is very unhelpful, that actually what we need to do is hold the line. So if Julia is over there in her little studio being paid with her fabulously well-connected husband in TV land, good for her. Keep speaking, Julia. Keep doing it. Maybe Farage will have you on his stage again. Keep going, bird. That's what I say. I remember going to LBC studios when Julia used to work there and her being like, you are the gift that keeps on giving. And so maybe she's had to change her view a little. But, you know, you keep going there. You keep going with your podcast. Keep pushing the line. Go, Andrew. Go, Tommy. You know, all of us. And the people that disagree with me. Go on. Go on. Because agreement, I never requested your agreement, and I never ever asked to be liked. And I want you to have your say. That's why I'm doing what I do.
But you say we shouldn't insult the others and all
No,
those
we
things.
shouldn't.
But you
It's
did
very
insult
poor.
Julia just now with mention of her connected husband.
No, I'm mentioning the fact that I think what she's trying to do is look after TV bookings. And the only way, as you will appreciate, you keep certain bookings is by staying within the rule book of things you are and are not allowed to say. Luckily, because I don't have an employer, I don't have any sponsorship or funding, I've never ever asked anyone for any money, I've never ever had a GoFundMe, I don't have any commercial interests sponsoring me at all. I say exactly what I think and what I want to. And that's very fortunate for me. Other people, Julia, others have bosses to please. I don't.
Do you understand why people find it hard to believe that you meant final solution just as a lasting solution and in no reference to the Nazis?
I mean, I would say for sure, if you are a target, don't give people an open goal. And I absolutely did, because that tweet is the tweet that saw me kicked out of LBC. And I really miss that.
I think you knew.
I really don't care what you think.
No.
But I do care that we haven't got a solution. I find it utterly weird that we're sat in a studio in North London on a podcast for clicks and views, and we're talking about a tweet I made when we still have Islamists all over the place. We have them infiltrating our life. We have them terrorising Christmas markets, and some people like to think it's a tweet from me that matters. I mean, how perverse. How perverse it is that a lot of people at the very heads of Jewish organisations are actually perpetuating the problem. How perverse it is that leftist Jewish organisations, such as the Board of Deputies, believe that they can put their arm around the crocodile, keep patting its head, and they don't expect the crocodile to bite its arse. But if anyone wants to put the finger at me, that seems very strange. I would be pointing the finger at the Board of Deputies and other leftist Jewish organisations, because they're not here for Jewish individuals.
Well, I do point the finger at them, and I think you're
Good.
right about them. But I would also say that we also have a duty, and this is maybe where you and I disagree, and I disagree with Posey Parker on this as well, with this hold the line issue, because I think we need to be convincing people. It sounds like you're suggesting you've tried that and they're not going to be convinced. The centre ground.
What's your point, though?
Well, by using language that's going to make them think that we are the thing they think we are. They think we're evil.
Hold on. By using language that makes them think we're going to think we are, the think what? I'm missing your point.
The Rory Stewarts, the Ian Hislops, the Emily Maitlises of this world.
Emily Maitlis.
Yeah.
She crucified herself. Did you see?
No.
Oh my God, it was so good.
When?
If you not watched it, you must immediately have it into this podcast. Emily Maitlis covering Trump winning winning on the night of the election. She was Channel 4's team. If you haven't watched it, you have got to watch it.
I saw Rory screw himself over big
Get
time.
naked in the shower.
Yep.
Get Emily Maitlis, Channel 4 coverage of that. You will have your best shower of your life. I'm just saying, she completely...
Do you have a TV in the shower? What do you mean?
I'm just giving you titillating ideas of how
Have a
you might
shower.
entertain yourself. Maybe you do. You're that glib. Maybe you do. You oil yourself down and watch the Channel 4 coverage.
I will.
Honestly, just as a bit of light refreshment in your life, because I think you could do with it. Watch her implode. She loses it. She swears repeatedly. Her co-presenter has to apologise for her, and she hasn't worked since.
Wow. Well, look, I think they're insane. I think these are these insane centrists with huge audiences.
It's brilliant.
But I think if we really want to win this ideological
carry
battle,
on back to they,
we need to be very careful not to use language. I think a little bit careful.
Do you?
Final solution? That I think we have to be
You
more
gone
careful
back to the tweet again?
This is my point. It's my point. I'm not going back to it. I'm still on it. The point is, we have to be careful not to say things like that, because then we're not going to convince them. And then
you're
Keir
talking
Starmer
about
comes
words
out
in a tweet.
because
We've got people ramming Christmas markets, and you're talking about words on a tweet.
We can do both.
This is the frustration.
We can do both.
Oh, hush thy mouth. You cannot possibly be trying to make a point about a tweet 5 years ago that saw me. I mean, let's just say you're right? Mm-hmm. Let's say it's appalling. It's shocking, right? Let's say writing, we need a lasting solution to terror, final solution. It's terrible. Let's say, so I should be punished, yeah? If this is the way this goes, it's a terrible thing to do, punish her.
I'm not concerned with punishing you.
No, let me finish my point.
Go on.
So punish me, right? Oh, okay, we'll take her job away. Okay, we'll take her home away. Okay, we'll come for her kids. At what point is someone punished enough? You see what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. But I want to get to the bottom of how we should speak about this, because Keir Starmer is using it. And I think it undoes the work that a lot of us do, and the work that you do. It undoes that when we use those kinds of words. And it gives him an excuse, that authoritarian lunatic, to get up there and start saying the far right. Look at these tweets, sometimes from Tommy.
It's really odd that you're doing this. You're imagining the world as if it's logical and makes sense. You're imagining it as if it's coming from the bottom up, as if it's coming from, what did someone tweet on a Tuesday whilst they were sat in Middlesbrough? Of course it's not coming from the bottom up. This is coming from large globalists who want total control. This is coming from heads of churches, heads of charities, heads. This is not coming from someone's tweet. Oh, let's react to it.
But we're giving them fuel. We're giving them excuses.
This is about, we have to stand stronger than ever before. And Trump right now is laying out the roadmap of how we deal with weakness. And you deal with weakness with strength. And that is one of the reasons I'm still around, is because I'm seen as having strength. And you said we must, I say, we should just let some people go. Some people are just morons and you have to let them go. It's an old marketing thing. Some people are unavailable. Some people are available. Some people are acceptors. Some people are adopters. Some people will adore you. Some people are unavailable to ever being changed. They are the climate change nutters. They are the Islamists. They are the people who are wacky weirdos. We have to let them go. If we waste our energy and time, if we try and in any way bring them with us, we can't. Keir Starmer's over there. We have to let him go, and he will be gone.
But not for some years.
Well, if things run according to how they are, supposed to.
You must understand what I'm saying, that more people, a larger percentage of society would be willing to give your views a chance if you didn't quite go that far with some of the tweets. What was that Dear Black People one?
So old, though. You're dredging so hard. You must be dredging Wikipedia from like the 1990s.
Well, I did a lot of research for this, Katie.
You didn't. You read Wikipedia. You already told me that's how you research, is by looking on Wikipedia.
Hang on,
that's what you said before we
That's
started.
unfair.
You told me you read Wikipedia.
I read Wikipedia, which I know
is where you're getting all this from.
Which I know has a leftist ideological slant.
It doesn't matter, but
and
it's
Wikipedia
also
was one of the sources where I found some of the things.
Very old. You're not looking at anything I've done in the last 5 years, because I haven't done a single tweet of that nature in the last 5 years. I haven't gone near any of these conversations in the last 5 years because I'm trying to move forwards. You are trying to move backwards. So at this point in the interview, you need to decide, what are we doing, going backwards or forwards?
You can understand that an interviewer who doesn't ask about those things, and this is an hour long, but this is we're talking to Katie, I'm talking to Katie. This is not a 10-minute, what's the subject of the day?
I realised that when I agreed to come on your podcast.
So how can I not mention those things? You must have known I would have done.
You have mentioned them.
Well, there we go. Good.
What answer is that? So there we go.
There we go. I have mentioned them. What's wrong with that?
So there we go.
It's 4 words. Why does counting the words make a difference?
Because you don't like...
I have to have a certain number of words in each sentence.
Because you don't like to allow the person you've invited on to close out a phrase. So if I say something that is an end point to a phrase, you still have to add something. Well, you won't do it now because I can see your brain working, thinking I'll let her finish this one. But so there we go. It's like that's what a child would say when they're answering back. Oh.
I think the reason I said it, you put me in a position there where if I say something, I'm doing the thing you predicted I'd say. And
exactly.
Yeah, it's smart. It's a tactical chess kind of thing going. But it doesn't mean I'm wrong. I have to ask those things. You've admitted that. I go, so there we go. I put a line under it. Of course I had to ask those things. I don't think I've ever done anything wrong. And in the last year, what about, I mean, look.
I think Wikipedia is really lazy, that's all.
Okay, but the things that I did get from Wikipedia, among many, many other sources, were true. You did write those things. And
when did I say I didn't write those things? Sorry.
The suggestion that I use Wikipedia, which people often use.
It was true. You did write those things. When did I say I didn't write those things?
What was the problem with me using Wikipedia then?
No, I asked, when did I say I didn't write those things?
The suggestion... either I might be wrong, and maybe you didn't mean to suggest that you didn't say that. The suggestion was Wikipedia.
No. You said I suggested I didn't write those things. I've never, ever suggested I didn't write those things. I said I absolutely did write those things.
Okay.
In fact, I repeated them.
Okay, well, I'm wrong. Why was I wrong then to use Wikipedia?
I think it was lazy.
Why? You wrote those things. It was right.
This is a leftist source.
It is a leftist source.
And I think you could have read much more widely.
When did I say I didn't read more widely?
Well, I think it's become apparent.
Why? The things that I've quoted that you said you have said them. I was right.
Because you were wrong and then you were right. You do a lot of wrongs and rights. But I think the thing we're trying to do is move forwards.
That makes 2 of us.
And I'm asking you, would you like to move forwards?
Yes.
Great.
Okay. I think there are a lot of really interesting things that you are talking about at the moment. And I think we should get into them. And one of them is multiculturalism. Can a country survive with multiculturalism? Can we survive with different cultures such as Islam coming into this country?
I haven't talked about that recently.
Okay. But what would you like to talk about now?
Well, I was just in DC for the inauguration of President Trump.
Yes.
And I think it would be really good to talk about what that's like and what that felt like. Because I know you like to talk about feelings. But I was there and, I've been in America now for Trump's first inauguration in 2016. I was there for Biden's installation in 2020. And even though we were told you can't go, even though we were told it's locked down, it's going to be like, it's going to be a military operation. We've told the military they can fire at will, and at the time we were locked down, we weren't allowed to leave the country. You weren't allowed to travel. You weren't allowed to go on holiday. You weren't allowed to, none of that stuff. I was still there because I was determined to witness the installation of Biden, which I believe was absolutely an installation. I believe it was absolutely a fraud. I don't believe he won that election. So to be back in America in 2024, well, actually 25, of course, but 25, to see Trump back in power and to be on the streets of America with Americans who'd hung in there for 8 years to get that man back in power and to see the joy and to feel this last week. I can feel it on my phone when I'm anywhere near Americans, the joy of watching one man lay out a playbook for how you restate sensibility, humanity, decency in a week. He's got rid of trans. T is no longer on any federal website. It's LGB or nothing. He's got rid of all of the nonsense in the military. This Pride Month, this month, vegan nut allergy month, lactose intolerant month. He's not having any more of it. He's got the military on the border, rejecting migrants. He's got ICE going in and lifting illegals and chucking them out of the country. He's putting tariffs on China, 25% on Canada, 25% on Mexico, returning the economy to greatness, putting Americans first. And you're here, I know we're not going backwards, but talking about a tweet freaking 10 years ago, Trump is laying out a playbook for how we take things forwards. And all England has to do, the UK, is copy it. And all we have to do is get that to happen.
Do you think it will?
I'm going to make it happen. I'm on a one-woman mission to make it happen. And it's actually why I've spent the last 5 years, since I've been allowed to speak again in this country. 2022, I believe, was the first time I was allowed back on a stage. That's what my mission has been. So I'm now about to do my 3rd tour in the UK, starting in April through till August. This tour will be the biggest so far, 60 venues, 5 nations, 60,000 seats. It will be fully sold out. And my job over the last 3 years has been to face down venues that wouldn't hold or cancelled or have made me endlessly the target of cancel culture. And over time to get venues to hold, to fill them with people, to give them the best night ever, to make their bar the best night ever. And now we have venues coming back to us asking if they can be part of the tour.
Wow.
And what I'm trying to do is create spaces where people who hate me can also perform. The country had been cancelled to the point where no one could say anything. Their side couldn't speak. What if they'd said something about this, or they hadn't got the right view about trans, or they hadn't got the right view about vegans? I mean, it was madness. I am a one-woman army blasting my way through, creating venues that won't cancel. And that's where my passion is. And my passion is with America, because they're leading the way now in showing what basic people want. They want everyone to be all right. Even the people that hate me, probably we could agree, we want everyone to be all right. I want, that maybe they want, everyone to be as free as they can be. We have got to this tiny minutiae of, me, it says this about you, me, it says this about you, me. I don't give a damn. Big stuff, man. Big stuff needs to happen. I don't care what one person thinks of me. I don't care. We have to get back to these founding principles of restoring this country to greatness. America is currently doing it. I have a role to play in this somewhere. I don't care what the role is. If it's just cuddling the lady at the Premier Inn breakfast, I'm all about it. But we have to pick ourselves up and move forwards. And it's why I'm doing what I'm doing to you today, because you can be part of this. We need hope, and we need joy, and we need to make people laugh again, and we need to make people feel better, because we're going to lose people this year again.
Yeah.
We lost people during lockdown. We lost, and no one would say anything, and no one would talk of it. And all the people paid to be mental health influencers, they all shut their faces, and one day I'll have them as well. But we are going to lose people now, because it is hard to be an ordinary person trying to earn money in this country. It's so hard.
It's really hard.
It's bloody hard.
The economy's gone to shit. The country's gone to shit. And I totally I've been off to talks in America myself, and you're there and you notice an entirely different atmosphere. They say to us, and I'm sure you've heard this, gosh, what the hell has happened to your country?
Exactly.
You guys are gone. And with regards to, I mean, what you're saying about the venues is incredible, because I can't be in venues. They don't allow me in.
I know, but I will make you, I can get you venues. I will find you a space. I will, your
I'm
podcast.
not sure I'm intellectually capable for your venue.
Yes, you are, darling. You're perfect.
Yeah.
So my next podcast that I'm doing is live, because I need to move you now. This is lovely and well done and everything, but we're going to get you into venues live. People need people. The next podcast I do is in the heart of Shoreditch. I am in the church where Coldplay released their last album. It is inconceivable that someone who was the most hated, the most pilloried woman, the most loathed, that was not allowed to speak, that's hated by other right-wing... I can speak in a church in the middle of Shoreditch, and it's got a waiting list of 800 people. I mean, it's not about the ticket sales. It's about people need to be together. We have to get past the bullshit of minutiae and smallness.
That's not easy to do, what you've like finding venues like that, though. I wouldn't want to give the impression to people that
it's hard.
We've won and now venues will accept us.
No, they won't. I've been body blowed for 3 years.
Podcast agencies, I can't go with British ones. I email British ones like, hey, my contract's over.
Darling, they're
I can
not
go
going
with
to
you.
employ you.
No, they won't. I have to go to American.
No, I know they won't.
American agencies.
I know they won't, darling. No one's
but the
employed
Americans
me.
do. That's what's incredible.
But I can. People want to hear you. Do you see? You have to. That's why I'm really. Look at me. I'm now doing my running legs, because I need to. I want to pick you up. I want to do this to you. shake you and make you go, come on, Andrew, come on. Let's bring it. It's joyful. Our people are fantastic. This is the time. They don't want to talk about old slights and old hates and who did this to what. They want to feel, where is hope? And let me tell you, hope is with the ordinary person. Hope is with the person who doesn't give up. With the guy who banged on the car this morning when I was getting here to go, it's with us now. This is our moment and our chance. And you are really a part of this.
Did you watch or read The Remains of the Day?
No.
You ever see that? There's an issue guru, but Anthony Hopkins, Emma Thompson. And basically, it doesn't matter, but it's the guy. A guy owns a house, big house in the 1930s, and he feels sorry for the Germans. And so the whole time he's got all these people coming. Many years later, he comes to realise they were the Nazis, and he had helped, and it ruins him. And I constantly have that fear in the back of my mind because you never know in the moment whether you're going wrong. And that is my concern. And maybe that sounds overly cautionary or overly concerned to you, and I understand that.
No. I'm not trying to understand you. You think you might be helping.
I think there's a 1%
bad guys.
A 1% chance. There always is, and I think if you don't allow space for that in your mind, I think you're more likely to go with
No. Wait. You're worried that with this podcast, I'm not knocking you or mocking you now. I'm now asking an open question. You're worried that with your podcast and what you do, that you might be giving space to people, me, others, whatever, whoever,
or myself, my own
or
views,
yourself. That might be the wrong thing. You worry for that.
I think you have to. The Nazis didn't think they were wrong. The Stasi didn't think they were wrong.
Love.
I don't think I'm wrong. But what if I am? How can you not have space for that? The woke don't think they're wrong. So I'm saying I'm right. The woke are going, I'm right as well. I think the difference between me and the woke is I allow space for the fact that I might be wrong, and they don't. And that makes them ideological, and it makes me reasonable.
That's heartbreaking. That's terrible. That's one of the saddest things I ever heard. You think you might be running a house for Nazis?
I think we have to remain open to the idea that any ideology that in the moment seems right, and it does seem right. And I need to make that clear.
But what ideology, though? I don't think there is an ideology. I think there's just...
everything's an ideology. My ideology is, we can call it a philosophy. No. Gender is real.
Yes, but that's just
Islam is incompatible with the United Kingdom, with British values. Those are my feelings and my philosophies. And it might be that some of my views lead down the road to some sort of catastrophe. Sorry.
No, you're good. You could just sneeze and you cover it. I could have sneezed and covered for you then. I could have helped you out. Sorry, Katie, I didn't think of it quick enough. I know, right? Scary being near me. But But yes, I am scary. But it's all right because I still love you. I love you.
See that.
I love you. I want you to be awesome. And I in you, there is awesome. I can see it. But there's just this little person who's been somehow made to feel, maybe you've been beaten up too much recently, or maybe you've had a hard time, or maybe you've just received too many no's, or maybe it's not easy enough recently, or maybe it's because some bastard guest that you booked didn't turn up, which frankly, if you give them to me, I've got a few things to say to them, because if you say you're going to do something...
They usually do.
Don't let
people are
off.
ill. People are ill in winter.
I don't care about illness. Listen to my...
I'd rather they don't
the sound of me.
Don't come closer to me.
The point is, I think you've been beaten down a bit.
No.
Don't know me until I finish what I'm saying.
Be
my son at this point. Shush. Shush, listen to mum. You're not... Oh, I say. Bend me over the table.
Yes.
Listen, I think you've been a bit whooshed, and you're being sort of cautious. Maybe it is this Nazi house thing that you're cautious of. I don't have any of that.
I know.
Because I'm certain... Look at me, and now I'm running again, because I need you to know. Or you need to go out into the wilderness and you need to find what you're certain about, because maybe that's why I've been lucky being put through fire. Like fire is, I am certain I have been pushed to the end of the earth for what I think, and I'm still believe it. And it's not an ideology, and it's not a philosophy. It's just, I want that guy to be all right. And if something happened to him right now, I would do anything to make him all right. The lady downstairs, I'll do anything for her.
But Katie,
it's wanting people to be okay, and that's why I know I'm right.
But Katie, okay, so firstly, I think that does sound ideological. And I used to, before this, I had a channel on cults. So that's why I think that, because every Scientologist I spoke to, every Jehovah's Witness, every Hasidic Jew, every extreme Islamist, all thought they were absolutely right and held no space in their minds for that they could possibly be not right.
I hold space in my mind that there will be people that disagree with me.
You must be wrong about things.
Well, it's quite rude.
Everybody, that's a fundamental difficulty we all face, right?
No, of course. Look, listen, dry robes. Let me just say, dry robes, I thought people that... Do you know what a dry robe is?
No.
Probably not, because you're you and you're glib and you don't know what real people are. Do you ever socialise? Do you go out?
No.
Oh, God, this is also why...
People talk to me if I go out.
I need to socialise you like a small puppy. I need to take you out and rub you into the dirtiness of life, because
that'll be in the trailer.
That's probably one of the terrible things. So a dry robe is something that people wear when they go swimming. Do you know what a dry robe is? Thank Christ. You see someone with a personality in the room.
Lying.
Why doesn't he do the podcast?
He's
Because
lying.
he's got
He
a
doesn't know
personality.
anything.
I always thought people that wore dry robes were wankers. This is for your listeners, not for you, because they have a personality and you don't.
Yes.
But it turns out I got a dry robe as part of my thing on stage.
It's like a woman thing.
It's not like a woman thing. It's not like a period. Don't get all Jewish.
But like a woman... Fucking hell.
But it's a dry robe. Anyway, I've got one, and now they're brilliant. So my point to you is, I was wrong about dry robes.
Well, what else might you be wrong about then? Right. The second point here, you say things like, I just want this person to be all right. I just want
I do.
A few months ago, some woman on the TV, her husband died. She made... And that's what you did. You laughed and laughed and laughed. And that was mental, Katie. So how do you square that with, I just want to help everyone? I don't think you're self-aware. I think you're very aware of everyone else and not necessarily self-aware.
That's so cute. Wow. Okay. Well, you. I mean, to be fair to the listener here, even before moi,
yes.
Right? The listener, I feel, should have some context.
Okay.
Because what you've just done is
I've warmed up. You've brought me to your level. Come on.
you have done much better.
Let's
I've
do
liked
this.
you more. In the last 5 minutes, you've suddenly found a little bit.
We need to do this again.
We can do it again. I'll come to you. We'll go out.
I got to remove that because I can't tell people where I live because they'll kill me. But go on.
Oh fuck! Sorry, I'm so sorry.
We'll censor it.
I'm so sorry.
It's
I
fine.
apologise.
It's fine. It's not live. It's not live.
I apologise.
You didn't know. Go on.
No, I do know, and that's not good enough. So I apologise. So anyway, we're going to do this again, but we're going to bring this guy, because this guy is really good. This guy is fun, and now you've warmed up. But anyway.
Yeah.
So let me just, if I may, and I'm
Yes.
not being defensive, but you
Okay.
just said that a lady's husband died and I laughed in her face. And I appreciate that is the synopsis. Mm-hmm. But may I give a little of the behind the scene?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it did seem a bit.
May I?
Yeah. Okay, go on.
Just a tiny bit, not even in my favour.
Okay.
So she's called Kate Garraway. She's on TV. She had a husband called Derek. See, I've got a cold, but I still came because I'm just a martyr. And
been hugging everyone with your cold.
You know,
Yeah.
warm everyone up.
Yeah.
And let them have a feel of these puppies.
Bloody hell.
I know. It's because I talked about periods. I think it really let you just.
Yeah, some weird Jew thing in there as well.
Yeah, the
wasn't there?
Jew thing. I basically unzipped the Jewness and let you just go.
Was that what? Because Hasidic Jews won't go
Don't
near
like
someone
to-
in a period. Was that what the
Yes.
joke was? I see.
Well, it was.
I'm an atheist.
It wasn't a Jewish joke, but it was it touched on Jew thing. Bear in mind, I get called a Jew all the time.
I knew a guy who decided to be Hasidic Jewish for a year. He lived by the Old Testament for a
Right.
year as a sort of
funsies.
a John Ronson-y kind of book.
I get it.
Yes,
Like I
and-
became a fat person.
Right, yes, that's true. You did, and well done on you for being able to do that and the willpower
Huge.
to do that. And so he went to the park and would stone people who were adulterers. Sort
Wow.
of half again facetiously.
Did,
but
yeah, did he just do it like this?
I think he threw. He said he threw a bunch of stones. He threw them quite
No,
hard.
but did he just sort of go?
I think he really threw them.
I'm
I
a
don't know.
Hasidic Jew.
I'm doing the thing, but then but when he got out, he said his wife was like, "What are you doing?" So his wife, when she was on her period, would sit on every chair in the house so that he couldn't, sit in any of the
she
chairs.
just sort of went round and went.
She was like, "All right, yeah, good luck. Where are you going to sit?" So she had a good sense of humour about it, but I mean, it's a ridiculous.
That is disgusting and
I'm an
horrible.
atheist, though. People can put their periods wherever they want near me.
I got that, but there's something happened inside you when I did the period thing. You saw it, you felt it, you felt a movement.
You want that to be true because you think men.
Well, there's a
I
comedy
don't
in
know
it
what.
that's glorious.
Yeah.
Regardless, where were we?
You're not stupid. You know where we are. I don't have to ask you where we were. You know,
Okay.
I would never ask such a stupid question.
That's fair. So periods, you, Jews.
Come on, you're smarter than this, Katie. You can remember. It was only a minute ago. What's wrong? How old are you?
I really like this. You.
I'm going to become Piers. This is my metamorphosis into Piers Morgan.
Yes. This. Oh, look at you, and you're all.
I'm all getting on
you're
my
all
chair,
excitable now.
sitting up tall.
Kate Garraway is where we were.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to try and defend myself. Okay, I'm just going to do this for the listener. Kate Garraway, lady on TV, ITV on the morning, right? Just bring the listener with us. Big hair. She's got big hair, right? And it's really good hair, fair.
Good.
Like my hair is terrible. Kate Garraway, she's got some thick hair on her. So let's be nice. Nice thing, right?
Nice hair.
And a really small forehead, lots of hair.
Okay.
She's married to someone called Derek, right? Derek. Derek got COVID. His COVID got to be very long COVID. And Kate Garraway pushed around in a wheelchair her husband, Derek, who I called #Dead Derek.
Right.
So Kate Garraway pushes around #Dead Derek for a very long time. And then at some point, #Dead Derek did actually die.
Right.
And at the point that #Dead Derek did actually die, she had the Sun newspaper handily there for his last gasp in the hospital. And the thing about Kate Garraway is, and the reason so many people like you think she's terrific, is she looked after Dead Derek.
I don't really know her.
She looked after, Dead Derek, with dignity and pride. And if it hadn't have been for the 14 documentaries, the 3 books, the OBE and the Sun newspaper there for his last gasp, we would never even have known he was sick.
Mm-hmm. What's your point? What's your facetious point? What's the smirky point there? That she was sort of trying to get all the money.
Oh my God! Did we ever stop hearing about Dead Derek?
Or maybe she needed money because he was an earner, and the fact
Derek.
Maybe he brought the income in.
Oh, hold on! We'll just push Dead Derek round a Century Garden with Alan Titchmarsh and see if someone can smell the lavender. Dead Derek was hardly there in the bloody wheelchair.
Look.
I felt sorry for the guy. And you want to hear the actual reason for what I'm saying? It is, I believe that COVID was a complete lie. I believe COVID was released deliberately in order to start the breakdown of human population and to go to the 4th industrial revolution. I believe COVID was a scam, and I believe the vaccine was a scam as well. I believe it injured people and killed people. And I blame people like Kate Garraway with Dead Derek for pushing the scam onto people. Because
what did he die of?
Long COVID or something.
Well, he must have died of something.
Yeah, the treatment he received for a man-made pandemic that was pushed into people who were forced to have a vaccine in order to keep their jobs, who had their lives crushed, committed suicide. And I believe she was part of the problem. And that's the reason I go for her. And that's the reason my supporters know. So you can huff and you can puff and you can play with your jacket and you can huff and a puff and be Jewish all you like down the end of the table. But you're not going to tell me I'm wrong.
Do you think I'm being Jewish?
No, I quite just threw it in just to annoy you.
I probably do. It doesn't annoy me. I don't mind.
I tried.
I'm not that sensitive.
I tried.
Although tell me I don't do enough research. That's the thing.
That got you. And now that you've warmed up, now you're going to have some regrets, because when you watch this, you'll see that from about 3/4 of the way through, you're really good, and you can be really good. And I am going to get you a venue. If it's the last thing I do, you're going to podcast live because you're going to be really good.
It's an interesting thing, the podcast format, because you invite someone in and there is a kind of you don't want to disagree too much.
Why not?
Because
boom, come out there. You go, right, you big-nosed old cow.
I don't know. Most people would take it maybe personally.
So what?
So.
Are you going to see them again? Are we going to see each other? We are going to see each other again because
Yeah.
you're going to be messaging me later.
I'm quite certain of that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think
you should be bolder. I think you've been.
But it might not be who
something
I
has
am.
happened to you.
I can rise to your level. It took me half an hour to warm up to it.
Yeah, but you've got there now.
I can rise to that, but it's.
But
it's
you're
not
better than
usual.
you know. You're better than you know.
I don't know if it's better. I think it's just
better
Katie,
than you know.
You've implied that the Katie Hopkins level is better.
No, not at all.
That's
you're
a
better
subjective
than you know.
thing. Maybe I quite like the other style as well. I wouldn't want every video to be.
No, but this is
like
good.
Going
Look at
at
you
each
now.
other like that.
You've got a little colour in your cheek.
Yeah.
I just think this year is good. It's not that.
Yeah.
You found your soul. I'm excited for you. You're going to be really good. This is good. We need good people.
People can't square this. I just want people to feel better with the cackling. And it was cackling. And I don't mean that.
I cackled.
It was cackling. With
good.
wine.
Oh, but that's
wine cackling.
Oh, at my pub. That's my pub online. You're being a little bit harsh there.
When you're at home, it looked like you were at home.
It's my pub.
Oh, it's your pub at home.
So
bit of wine.
Can I explain that?
Drunken cackling.
Oh, bless you. So I've since when I realised that we were losing people, and we were losing people fast in lockdown because people needed to come out, people needed to socialise, humans need humans. We had suicides that no one would speak of.
I agree.
So thank you.
I don't agree with the.
I didn't get to finish my point, and I wasn't asking for your agreement.
If you've forgotten where you are, it's fine. It happens to people of a certain age. But
thank you. I'm explaining about my pub, and I'll raise my voice if I need to, but I don't want to do that to you. But so because I knew people were dying of suicide.
Yes.
Get your silence.
We'll have to cut that word.
I started a pub online called the Katie's Arms. And you're very welcome to come and join us. I'd love you to. 8 o'clock on a Friday night.
Where is it? Can you say?
It's in my house.
Okay.
So you don't come to my house. It's online. It was during lockdown.
Oh, I see.
For 4 years, I ran the pub, and everyone could come and have a laugh. And people found it very, very helpful, actually. So I'm quite proud of it.
I'm sure.
So if you're now selling in that I had a wine glass and I was cackling, I was at my pub, and at the pub, anything goes. And the wine glass, as you may understand, being in the industry that you're in, is a prop that allows me to say anything I want without censorship. Because there's a hashtag comedy, look, I'm in the pub, and it means I can deliver some of the stuff that I'm actually wanting to really get across.
But I don't want you to be censored. I don't want you to be censored at all.
No, I know. I'm just explaining to you the drinking and the cackling.
Okay. I want to call out the hypocrisy of that. I just want everyone to be well, and the cackling. That's what it is.
Not that is the opposite of hypocrisy. That is precisely the point. Dead Derek was used to manipulate people into having the vaccine. Why can't you see that? Did you have the vaccine? Because if you did, you're a moron.
Yeah, so I agree with you on a lot of things. I don't agree on the vaccine.
Oh, for God's
half my
sake.
audience probably do, and half don't.
I
and
don't
that's
care.
how it
I'm not
should be.
going to persuade you.
I love vaccines.
I'm not going to persuade
we don't have time
you.
to persuade one another on that. I love vaccines. I got it for the flu. That's going to piss you off, isn't it? Even the flu. I'm like the youngest person. I am Jewish.
You are so Jewish in that regard.
Woody Allen, nebbish, not the stuff Woody Allen's done, by the way.
Woody Allen? Did you just associate yourself with Woody Allen?
I would have no problem associating myself with Woody Allen, aside from the weird stuff with the.
But you are Jewish, so you have had vaccines. I get it.
I love that.
AstraZeneca just got their factory kiboshed here in the UK.
Well, look, if I end up suddenly having a heart attack, I'll say you're right. But I don't want you cackling on
I will.
Katie's pub.
I will. If you have a stroke later on, I'll be like, I told him not to have that.
Exactly, but you will, wouldn't you?
But if you have a stroke, it might improve your podcast. So at least it'll stop you going on Wikipedia. If you've got Bell's palsy, at least you'll have like a disability.
You'll be
you could
in
be
your
on
element.
Strictly.
You'll be on your element.
You'll be back on mainstream TV.
Fuck
they
me.
love a spaz.
Yeah.
You can't. I'm a spaz. Look, do you know I'm a spaz?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know I'm actually a spaz.
Are you actually?
Yeah. Do you want to come and feel? Come here.
What?
Come here.
What do you mean?
Come here. It's not wet or sticky.
What are you talking about?
Come here and feel my spaz.
I don't want to feel your spaz.
Come and feel my spaz. Hold on, I've got to move a hair slide. Okay, come on, bring your hand. It's not sticky. All you have to do, think Jewish. Gently, don't push. Do a flat hand.
I'm really scared.
Yeah, do a flat hand.
Oh, fucking hell.
No, come back.
What is that?
I know, come back. Don't be scared. So now, get ready, right? Ready? Can you feel that move?
Oh, yeah.
That's my brain.
Oh.
Yeah. I told you it wasn't sticky. So I am a proper spaz, just so that other spazzes don't get offended.
I wondered why you were so incoherent. It all adds up now.
Yeah, massive brain surgery.
I remember, I know that because I researched it because of epilepsy.
Because of Wikipedia.
Epilepsy.
Epilepsypedia. Epilepsypedia.
That's why you are like you are. Because David Baddiel, right, he wrote this book about his dad. His dad's got dementia and all of that. And and there's this great scene. It's probably the funniest thing I've ever seen. And I think it's right up your street with terms of dark humour. Have you heard
love dark humour.
Have you heard him tell this story, Baddiel?
No. But it's not the way I am, just so you know.
Right, they're sitting shiva, Jewish thing for the
I know, I do know.
I think it was his wife, the mum had died, David's mum had died, and they're all sitting shiva. David and the brother are there, and the dad, and people at a shiva, you have to come around and they shake the hands of all three people and they say, wish you long life or whatever. It's a nice little thing. And then they went up to David, oh, wish you long life, sorry about your mother and all that. And then to the dad, wish you long life. And this woman said it to him. And then he said, I wish to take you outside and rape you later.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't find it funny?
I mean, I do, but
it's
I also
funny, but it's sad.
I get it. I totally get that's dark humour, but also bless his dad.
David tells it much better because he's a comedian.
No, but bless his dad. Like bless his dad. Like
I know.
You don't know, but this is not why I am as I am. Thank you. I'm just explaining
it might
because
be, though.
Sort of people who are disabled might think I'm being rude about spazzes, but I am a champion spaz.
Yeah.
I don't have a head. Oh, you should probably explain.
When
I don't
you
have
touch
a head.
it, there's a sort of big scar,
almost
kind of
like
tissue.
a Jewish doody doody.
A doody doody.
What do you call the doody doody?
A couple, a kippah.
A thing on you. Yes. It's
not
the
like
size
that.
of a kipper.
No, because yours is like a line. It felt.
It's a circle.
Oh, is it
It's
a circle?
yeah,
It felt like a line.
So they
that
just
bumps
basically
out, and when you pushed your stomach, it went up.
Yeah, so they took away my skull, this
Okay.
size, and that's a hole that you felt, and then that's my brain under it. So it's just my brain with no skull.
So much makes sense. How long has that been done? There?
That's when I got the short hair. So just before the Ian Hislop interview, yeah.
Okay, and so it's about around the feral time, the final solution.
Don't package me away. Don't
Okay.
package me
No,
away.
it makes sense. And why you couldn't
doesn't make
recall certain things,
sense.
you couldn't remember things halfway through the interview. Okay,
I do
now
have a short-term
remember.
memory
You got
issue.
lost in the building before I found you roaming
That's
through
not
this
true.
old Jehovah's Witness
Oh,
complex
that's
we're in.
not true. I got invited up to someone else's studio, so, you know.
That's true. A young boy, wasn't
young
it?
boy. He's very muscular.
Yes, Katie
So-
Epstein. Hopkins. So, I've got another question for you, but first, where can people find all your stuff?
Well, I invite everybody to come to my pub on Instagram at 8 o'clock on a Friday. And to do that, it's _Katie_Hopkins_. And that's because I didn't set that account up. Someone else did when I got banned from Twitter. And then they gave it to me, which is very sweet. But otherwise, if people can get tickets, there aren't really any left, but to come on the road sometime. If you hate me, come. If you disagree with me, come. If you think you don't agree with anything I say, also come. But also if you're alone, come. If you've been left out by your family and friends, or you think no one understands you, come. And if you feel like this country, you can't see a way forwards and there's no way through for you and you're sick of everything, come. Because the magic of being in the room at Batshit Bonkers Britain is that it's nothing to do with me and it's everything to do with everybody in the room, which is why I want you in a room, is you suddenly remember what it feels like to belong. And to belong is an ethereal thing. It's the flapping of a butterfly's wings or a firefly's arse in the night. You cannot manufacture it, but in these rooms people belong, and there are tears and there's laughter and it's magic. And my website is Katie's Arms, ARMS, because I'm known for having biceps. katiesarms.com. But we're more or less fully sold out. But I will stay on the road and I will keep fighting to find venues that others can use in my fight until we have the same playbook that the Americans have with Trump.
Who's a heretic you admire?
Joan Rivers is probably my ultimate heretic because she was before her time. She was so studious and so thorough. Every single joke she ever made filed alphabetically and by category in her home. And I think the world was a much better place with Joan Rivers in it.
So you like the Jews?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I've been accused of being too fond of Jews. It's just no pleasing some people.
Yes. People, go follow Katie Hopkins. I'll put all her links in the thing down below if you want to. You might hate everyone, so then don't. Do your thing. She's only got half a brain. You've got to feel sorry for her. She doesn't know what she's doing, and she's all sorts of things. Hit that like button. Keep watching this channel.